So our next film is Mrs. Doubtfire, which jumps us ahead to 1993. And to put you in perspective of the Robin Williams filmography that's going on between Hook and Mrs. Doubtfire, he voiced the genie in Aladdin, which is an all-time favorite, my hands-down favorite Disney character in Disney movie. He did voice work for Fern Gully, voice work for The Timekeeper, and was in Shakes the Clown in 1992, which I'm not too sure what that is.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh?
But Mrs. Doubtfire was the next big one outside of when it comes to acting. He did a lot of voice work between Hook and Mrs. Doubtfire. And Mrs. Doubtfire follows the story of a man who is going through a brutal divorce with his wife, and it ultimately affects the kids. And in one of the most successful attempts, because I'm tired of Nutty Professor, tired of freaking Medea's wedding or whatever Medea does, Robin Williams goes in disguise and becomes the nanny for the kids, which, of course, comedy shall ensue. Initial thoughts, we'll start with you on this one, Eddie, for Mrs. Doubtfire.
Initial thoughts. Again, I'm old, right? So I saw this back in 1993 or early '94 in the movie theater, and what's weird is that my parents were getting divorced at the time. So, I didn't experience it as a traumatic event in my life. Just okay, it happened, big deal. I really was like, big deal for real. But I was watching it with my mom and my sister. And I just felt awkward as hell. Like, I wonder what my mom is thinking right now. When I was a kid, I saw it, right? And I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was funny. A guy dressed up as an old lady, It was funny. Mm-hmm. 70% of the jokes I didn't get, but still, it was an entertainment movie. What you might not know is that it was kind of unanimous among everyone in my class or everybody that I knew in my age group that movie was a piece of shit.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, back then that movie was a piece of crap, and so in my mind I was like, okay, that movie. I knew it was a good movie. It's just I heard it when you hear a lie so many times, it kind of becomes true. So I'm like, okay, that movie sucks. I guess it's just a family movie. If it doesn't have like cool superheroes or a lot of tits and fucking, the movie sucks. So for a long, long time, that's just the way it seemed to me until I saw it last week. Surprisingly good. I was really, really surprised, much more than Hook. Because I remember the movie being all right, but it was actually really funny.
Tony, what were your initial thoughts on Mrs. Doubtfire?
I own the movie. I love the movie. It's not something that I watch every year or so, but if I'm in the mood to watch something from the 90s, and I frequently get into that mood where I just want to be nostalgic and I want to watch something that was lighthearted enough and something from my childhood that I can just sort of kick back and pretend like my life doesn't blow anymore. Mrs. Doubtfire and a bunch of other movies are those go-to ones. If I'm not going to put in Grumpy Old Men or Rookie of the Year or something like that, I'll put in a Mrs. Doubtfire. So it has a special place in my heart, for sure.
To give you some of the reception when it comes to this movie, at the box office, the film earned about $219 million in the U.S. and about $220 in all other countries for a worldwide total of over $440 million. It became the second highest grossing film of '93, only behind Jurassic Park. When it comes to accolades and the listings, in the AFI list, it was number 67 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs. And the song Dude Looks Like a Lady was nominated for AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs. In the 51st Golden Globe Awards, it won Best Picture for Musical/Comedy, and Robin Williams won Best Actor for Musical/Comedy. And in the 66th Academy Awards, it only won Best Makeup. Yay.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Overall, the movie released November 24th, 1993. So again, putting it into like the pinnacle of our childhood. For me, at least, I'm still not in school. Well, no, I was. I was just beginning kindergarten around this time. So we're gonna look into it, and one of the big things it speaks to is for those who have divorced parents. And the movie kicks off where it lets Robin Williams, who's a voice actor living in San Francisco, he is devoted to his 3 children, and he kind of lets a party go a little bit too far, despite the bad report card, which makes the split happen. When it comes to speaking to divorced families, and at least this type of scenario is something that it was playing on in the early 90s with Mrs. Doubtfire, do you think it resonates more with kids that go through that type of situation, or not at all? So we'll start with you, Tony.
Well, my parents never divorced, although in retrospect they probably should have. And watching a movie like this as a kid, it didn't end up making me think that. That's something I had to come to the conclusion of when I had grown up and became mature enough to realize that some couples do not work out and that it is better if you split up. As a kid that had parents that hadn't gotten divorced, it didn't bring those emotions out, but it probably should have woken me up to the idea that it's not as bad as sometimes it's made out to be. So I can't speak if it does talk to the kids with the divorced parents or not, but in my case, it didn't hit home at all.
Eddie, your thoughts?
My parents were smack in the middle, like fresh out of divorce, and I already had a stepdad all the way, who was just a little more successful than my dad. Had like a nicer car and whatever. So it totally struck a chord with me at the time. But the situation was nowhere near the same. My parents were really amicable about it. Whereas in the movie, it's like, wow, man, this bitch must die.
Plus, your stepdad was Timothy Dalton instead of Pierce Brosnan.
No, I don't even know who that is.
Another James Bond.
Oh, okay. No, but I guess similar, kind of like that, yeah. What was I? Oh, that's right. Yeah, it struck a chord with me, and I guess I was the only kid in my class that I knew had divorced parents. Well, there was one other girl, but never mind. And the consensus was like, "Oh, this movie sucks" and whatever. And I'm like, "Well, no shit. You have no life experience." And when sometimes I looked at myself, not to, act like I was better than anybody else, but me as a 10-year-old, I always felt like this my whole life. But even though when I was a kid, like when I was a 10-year-old, like my age group always seemed incredibly immature compared to where I was. Not that I wasn't, outgoing as hell and the class clown and made all sorts of jokes and didn't take anything seriously, but inside, I obviously was going to appreciate this movie way more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to casting, again, we're looking at Robin Williams as the highlight for the Four Reel Movie Club today. Again, he has gone from, we started with Dead Poets Society, he's transitioned into Hook, which was clearly geared at kids, back into a bunch of voice work, which was geared towards kids, and again, here in Mrs. Doubtfire, that is still more so a kids movie, but has enough comedy in there and none, like, hints and tones to it that speaks to an older audience, or at least an older teenage audience when it comes to this movie. Do you think at this point in Robin's career, and we'll start with you, Tony, this was a good move, and what did you feel about the rest of the cast?
Oh man, that's tough, because he did get typecast around this time, and I don't know if maybe that was the best move for him. It did lead to mass success, but maybe that's one of the reasons what led to him doing what he just did recently. I don't know. That's tough to answer. For the rest of the cast, some of them didn't really do anything afterward. I don't know what happened with Lydia, the older daughter. The little kid, he sort of just floundered here and there, and the little girl, fucking annoying as hell. She became this big icon kid star for a 3-year period, and then now she's writing articles for Cracked and stuff, and is a lot happier. Sally Field has stuck to her guns, and she's been doing as good, if not better, ever since. So I don't know if this movie really did her any favors or hurt her in any way, or just kind of was another thing, another notch on the belt. Brosnan, he ended up doing the Bond films, and then that's actually where his career took off even more. But I'm not sure. I think that if anything, this is probably a good thing for everybody, but you never quite know, do you?
Mm-hmm. Eddie, what are your thoughts? Was this a good move for Robin after doing so many kids films, and the rest of the cast? What are your thoughts on them?
Do you happen to have the money this movie made right in front of you? The overall budget.
The budget was $25 million, and at box office brought in about a little over $440 million.
440.
Yep, worldwide.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it did well.
let me tell you. I mean, this is how. It's sad, but this is how Hollywood really works. If a movie does really, really, really well, who cares if it was if it had integrity or artistic significance? The movie was probably made in a cookie cutter. They said, we want Robin Williams to star in the movie. Let's make a movie. Let's write something. Okay, good. He's great with doing this and that. And then they say, oh no, the script was written a couple of years earlier. We were thinking about who to cast, but honestly, it was just. They save these scripts for the perfect cash cow, and they totally got Robin Williams, which is honestly I couldn't possibly see anybody else doing, especially back then. I mean, I could maybe see Jim Carrey pulling something like this off, but I don't know. Like Robin Williams' build, his physical build is more appropriate for this. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jim Carrey's face could pull off a woman, and again, but Robin Williams totally did. And I mean, yeah, it was great. I mean, his career it never took a step down ever since. And I think it was still in a period where Robin Williams he was genuine about his acting. He was genuine about his projects. I saw a video on YouTube. I forget who it was. It was like a 50-minute monologue about how Robin Williams had to take a lot of jobs in the past 5 to 10 years to pay alimony. Mm-hmm. But back then he was still fresh and he was still doing all right, and I think he was sober too. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely the right one. Yeah.
When you come to talking cash cows, one thing that was always in talks when it comes to Mrs. Doubtfire was a sequel. Writing of a sequel began for Mrs. Doubtfire 2 in 2001 by Bonnie Hunt, who also starred alongside Robin Williams in Jumanji. Robin Williams was set to return in disguise as an old nanny, similar to the first movie, but due to the problems with the script, rewriting began in early 2006 as Robin was allegedly unhappy with the plot. The movie was expected to be released in late 2007, but following further script problems, the sequel was declared scrapped in mid-2006. The sequel storyline involved Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire moving closer to his daughter's college so he could keep an eye on her in an interview for Newsday. Williams said the movie sequel was indefinitely scrapped. Stating his reasons, he said the script just didn't work. In May 2013, though, there was hope for the sequel, as Chris Columbus stated that Robin Williams and I are talking about the sequel to Mrs. Doubtfire. We've talked about it, and the studio is interested. The thing that fascinates him was the sequel for Mrs. Doubtfire, as most actors who create an iconic character like Mrs. Doubtfire, when you come back and do that character, well, you're 20 years older, so you're not looking to go the same way. Unfortunately, with the passing of Robin, the film was obviously scrapped because as of April 17, 2014, the sequel was in development. Columbus and Williams were both expected to return, and Elf screenwriter David Berenbaum was writing the script. But due to his death, of course, it didn't pan out as planned. Tony, we'll start with you. Do you think a sequel would have been a good idea?
No, not at all. There's certain movies that you can't make a sequel to, and certain movies that you can, and it can be either good or bad depending on the script. There's no way that this could have had a good script to it. What are you going to do? You're going to have him be the nanny to his grandkids and his kids don't recognize him? Or he's going to be watching some other people's kids and that's legitimately creepy instead of him just watching his own kids? Like, there's no way around that flaw.
Eddie, what were your thoughts? A sequel would have been a good idea or a terrible idea?
I suppose it's impossible to tell. Who knows? Something might have come out of it. The plot would have been completely different, of course. I mean, if we're really gonna push for a sequel, like, what could you possibly do that you couldn't just imitate the first one. You couldn't just say, oh no, he has to disguise himself because he can't be recognized or something. All you got to do is find a real reason for it. I mean, I'm sure you could find a creative way. I mean, as long as you didn't, get Michael Bay to direct it, it couldn't have been. It wouldn't be a complete catastrophe. Robin Williams can pull stuff off, right?
For sure. Some of the the popular culture references when it came to this movie, it's been referenced in several works going forward, kind of like Dead Poet Society, etc. Anything he does, it does resonate, and you see the ripple effect when it comes to the pond of filmography. Robin Williams, as the genie in the third installment of Aladdin, actually spoofed a reprisal of his Mrs. Doubtfire role, and he tries to give a dejected Jasmine some moral support. Probably one that resonates with a couple of us here on the panel is in How I Met Your Mother, the episode The Playbook. Barney, played by Neil Patrick Harris, performs the role of Mrs. Doubtfire as Mrs. Stinsfire, as to pick up girls. Another one that probably resonates with this panel is Tobias Funke in Arrested Development dresses as an elder nanny, Mrs. Featherbottom, and something described by the narrator as the exact plot of Mrs. Doubtfire. So it obviously, the legacy of this movie, it's the ripple effect when it comes to filmography and roles that we can look into as people like Eddie Murphy, Adam Sandler tried his hand in it, Tyler Perry lives off of it, tried to do these characters in disguise, more or less. So when it comes to the legacy of this movie, Tony, what kind of impact do you think it has on the cinematic world?
Why do so many people think that they could do this? Every movie other than this that I've seen where somebody dresses up like a woman or whatever has been god awful, and I'm sure the ones that I haven't seen have been even worse. There's no fucking way I'm watching a Medea movie.
And it's a shame too, because if you look at it, Eddie Murphy tried it twice. I think he had I'll give him fair credit. Nutty Professor, the first one was okay.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it was god awful.
More a bit.
Yeah. Eddie, what was your thoughts on the legacy of this film and how so many others have tried it afterwards?
It got to the point where I'd see a lot of actors, do these movies where like Nutty Professor and whatever else. These movies would just pass by and I wouldn't even notice. It's not. I mean, these were silly movies. That's the thing. I mean, it was that whole let's cash in on this niche that's happening. It's a market. Oh, somebody dressed up funny. Ha, let's watch it. Usually they're lukewarm family movies, and that usually means it's not gonna do anything for me. So I guess I'm being cruel, but. If I think about it, like stuff like Big Mama. I think there were 2 or 3 moments where I thought, aha, funny. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it was just kind of silly. So I'm trying really hard to defend the genre, but I can't.
It is definitely tough to defend this.
It's easy to bash it. I'm trying to defend it. But the thing is, you know what it is. It's sometimes stars align. Mrs. Doubtfire worked. Other movies just couldn't get a decent. But maybe the studios just didn't take the genre seriously. They didn't think you can actually do something tasteful with this kind of silly situation.
Mm-hmm. One note that I'd like to make before we continue our conversation, that as I was reading through the articles of Mrs. Doubtfire to think of stuff we could talk to. One thing we talk about when it comes to Robin Williams is his ability to dive into a character, and I think it's awesome to note that since the makeup for Mrs. Doubtfire's appearance took 4 hours to apply, Robin Williams has gone on record saying that he had recounted several occasions how he used to just walk through San Francisco fully dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire, and once visited a sex shop to buy a large dildo.
That sounds about right.
I just think things like that were just awesome that he would do that. And I think it also plays to the fact that when it comes to comedians trying to play these other roles on screen, this is why Robin Williams could do so, as there are others probably 9 to 5 put the makeup on, go and do it. Robin Williams was 5 o'clock came and gone. He went to a sex store to buy a dildo. So
yeah, try that in Texas, man.
Yeah, you get away with it in San Francisco. A nice little old lady coming in. Oh, I'm a nanny. It's okay. Let's buy a dildo. But before we move on to our final movie, one of our final movies, we want to do high points and low points for Mrs. Doubtfire, and we'll start with you, Tony. What was your high point, low point, and final thoughts on Mrs. Doubtfire?
My low point is the actual arguing throughout the movie, because it's something that I'm not a big fan of watching, and I know that it's necessary for movies to do this and stuff. Obviously, I just study movie stuff constantly, but sometimes I'm just not in the mood to see conflict, and I actually, when I was rewatching this, I skipped forward the very beginning fight, because I was like, I know that they split up, I know that they don't get back together at the end, which is actually good, that it isn't just like all wrapped up in a neat little package, but it's just unsettling sometimes, and if you're not in the mood to watch it, that's got to be a low point. High point, I'm sure, for the women out there is Stu, because he's a fucking stud in the movie. but for myself, I got to give credit to one of the stupidest puns out there, but I love my puns, and that's my first day as a woman, and I'm already having hot flashes. That's fucking amazing. That is amazing. Whoever wrote that line, if it was Robin Williams or one of the writers, fucking golf clap to you, because that was amazing.
Probably Robin Williams.
Probably.
Eddie, what were your high points, low points, and final thoughts on Mrs. Doubtfire?
Man, we have 4 base movies for this panel. 2 serious movies and 2 silly movies / family movies. And I thought Mrs. Doubtfire was going to be a lot sillier than I remembered. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly enough, it was less of a roller coaster than Hook. It's hard to pick the hype, like the 1 or 2 high points of the movie. I like the way they portrayed this. Robin Williams played this artist with integrity that didn't want to do the smoking bird thing, and then he just goes home and he just pulls off this dumb, like, what the hell are you thinking? Typical artist mind, to just go with the flow and make, and gets a petting zoo to go over his house, and I like that aspect. And I like this organic character, and married to this very, very serious, who over the years became very serious wife, and then the whole divorce thing. That's, again, I think it was portrayed realistically, except for this is the low point for me. I don't believe in forgiveness from angry women. No offense, really no offense. I don't believe that. In a total touch of Christmas Miracle, she, at the end of the movie, after all the stuff that he's done, in the total invasion of her privacy as dressing up as a nanny and pulling all that off, there's no way she'd forgive him and let him see the kids. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is just, the movie lost total credibility. It became a family movie from then on for me. But as far as high point, honestly, there are times where, like, I saw how much. I liked how Robin Williams portrayed a father who was really hurt, and seeing this other jackass, like, be the dad in the family, like when they're at the pool. And then there's a part where, like, he throws an orange or something at him, and like, oh, I saw those children. Oh, that was just terrible. It was one of the orderlies or one of the barmen, like, who threw the orange. Like, it was just, I just laughed so hard at it. These small little things totally did it. And when he's at the restaurant and all that, say, man, no, a lot of highs and just that one low where it lost credibility for me.
Before we wrap up Mrs. Doubtfire, as usual, we're going to give our thoughts on the scale 1 to 10. Eddie, we'll start you. 1 to 10, what would you give Mrs. Doubtfire?
I'll give it a 6. A strong 6. I'll go to, if I could, a 6.5. There are plenty of jokes. There are plenty of puns and all that. There are a lot of themes that I, as an adult now, can relate to compared to when I was a kid. So yeah, I think this movie also, in a way, even though it's totally early '90s and Ace of Base kind of, it's still very. I think it aged with grace. So, but it's just at core, it's a silly movie. So yeah, there you go. It's a 6, and that's it.
Tony, what is your thoughts? 1 to 10.
I'd give it a 6.5 too. It serves its purpose perfectly well in being a family movie, being something that you can laugh at, and you can, I hate to use this phrase and kill me for doing it, a fun for the whole family type of movie. I'm gonna go fucking shoot myself for saying that because I hate that phrase so much, but it really does serve that purpose. It's something that I watched as a kid, and my parents liked as a kid, and my older sister liked. Not my parents liked as a kid. That doesn't make any sense. When I was probably the target age for this, or maybe even a little bit younger than that, it was a movie that I enjoyed, and we all were able to come to the idea that this was something that we could watch, and we could sit and not annoy one of the members of the family by watching it. If I wanted to watch Terminator, my sister didn't want to watch that. If my dad wanted to watch something from the 60s or whatever, I didn't want to watch it. So it targets that kind of an audience, and it pulls it off.
Sweet. So for those of you that are listening, we're going to move into our 4th movie, Good Will Hunting. If you're watching on the newly re-established YouTube channel, go ahead. Woo! Go ahead and click the link and go down to the next one, or let the video list keep playing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has Mrs. Doubtfire.